Today's video comes to you from the center of Moscow. It's a square, a park, a courtyard, I'm not quite sure. I don't even know what this place is called, but it's right in the center of Moscow. Very beautiful in the summer. You can see right now it's end of autumn, start of winter. It's actually November. And if you see, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's actually just started snowing. And today I want to talk to you about something every single foreigner in Russia goes through, no matter if you've been here for a year, 10 years, or it's just your first week here. This will happen to you. The moment someone hears your accent in Russia, the interview begins. It's not hostile and it's not suspicious, it's just curiosity, but it happens to everyone. Russians want to know who you are, why you're here, and what on earth made you choose, out of all the countries in the world, to come and move to or visit Russia. And after 8 years here living in Moscow, I can tell you that the same 5 questions come up again and again and again. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what they are. So the first one is always the classic, and I don't think you're going to be shocked by this one. It's, why did you come to Russia? People ask this before they even ask your name. And for Russians, it seems like the idea that someone would leave a comfortable life, or what they imagine is a comfortable life in the West, for Moscow or St. Petersburg sounds strange. It sounded strange to them in the 90s, and for some reason it still sounds strange to them now. It's almost like they expect you to say, shrug and say, I don't know, I got lost and ended up here. Or they use this Russian phrase which actually means, what did you lose here? Что вы здесь потеряли? And I get it. Most Russians think that foreigners only ever hear bad things about their country, especially from foreign media. So when you tell them that you decided to come from your home country to Russia by choice, you get this like little pause, the eyebrows go up, and they ask again, maybe slower, just to check that you understood their question properly. And okay, so for me, the answer is, the truth is very simple. I came here as a student, I fell in love with daily life here, and I returned as soon as I graduated. There was no grand plan, no political motivation, I just liked it. And that alone blows people's minds. The fact that someone from the West moved to Russia and they loved it so much they chose to live here instead of there. And after you've told them why you moved here, that you really like it here, that it's a great country, the second question arrives immediately. Why Moscow? Or often it's, why Moscow and not St. Petersburg? Russians treat Moscow versus St. Petersburg like choosing sides in a football derby. Muscovites think that Petersburg is cold and wet and miserable. People from Peter think that Moscow is loud and stressful and money obsessed. And when you're a foreigner, like me, even someone who's been here for many, many years, everyone wants you to validate their city. People ask this question with a real passion. Why not St. Petersburg? Or when you're in St. Petersburg, they ask you for your comparisons between the two. I always explain that Moscow fits my lifestyle, the pace, the energy, the fact that everything works here so well, and even though it's a big city, everything's actually close. But if I say that to someone from St. Petersburg, they look at me like I've failed some sort of deep moral test. So you learn very quickly to answer this one carefully. Don't mess it up. The third question is a badge of honor for many Russians. They ask you about the winter here, how you handle the winter, especially if you come to visit in the winter. I guess they wouldn't ask you if you came in the summer. And they ask it very proudly. They expect you to say, no, I can't handle it, because, I don't know, for winter for them is sort of test of strength and identity. And you say, yes, the first winter was rough. I bought cheap boots and I slipped on the ice more times than I could possibly admit. And then, I mean, personally, I learned the hard way that British cold is definitely not the same as Russian cold, because in Russia the buildings are really, really warm and the heating is intense. So you walk from -20 into a place that, I mean, it feels like it's a banya, it feels like it's a sauna inside. It's just a normal building. If you've got glasses, luckily I don't, they like fog really, really fast, and you see people waiting by the door just so they can see where they're going. And after a while, of course, you adapt. You, like I did, you get decent shoes, you learn how to walk on the ice, not just like a penguin. And one day you realise that you just like sort of stopped thinking about the cold entirely. It just became part of living here. And that's when Russians really start trusting you, and you show that, like, yeah, I'm one of you, I can cope with the winter. And then, well, just as the snow is really starting to pick up here, you get question 4. So question 4, people kind of ask it without directly asking it. It's basically, if you're from the West, are you rich? And because of course they don't say it like that. Sometimes it's polite, sometimes it's a joke, sometimes it's just like implied. But Russians grow up sort of with this fantasy that salaries in the West are much higher than salaries in Russia. So if you're a foreigner living here, many assume you didn't come for the money, so you must have some sort of high income or some kind of monetary advantage because you're Western. And of course the reality is far less glamorous. I'm a normal freelancer, I guess, who works a lot and drinks too much coffee, a little bit like millions of people here. That stereotype lives on. A few times people have been genuinely confused that I don't live in some kind of massive apartment with a beautiful river view, because in their head that's what foreigners, well, Westerners, do. It becomes an interesting moment when you explain that your life here is just normal, it's comfortable, but it's certainly not some form of luxury tourism. I'm on the other side of the road from that square, and you can see here a statue. This is a statue of young Vladimir Ulyanov, of course best known to the rest of the world as Lenin. And it's from here I want to talk about the final category of question I get asked every time without fail, and that's about politics. And the question is never asked straight away. It always comes a bit later in the conversation, when people have talked to you, you've had a bit of small talk, they feel a little bit like I guess safe to talk to, basically. And it's always something along the lines of, why does the West hate Russia? Or sometimes it's, what do you think of Putin? Or probably more in general, what do people from your country think about Putin? Or about current affairs, what do people from your country think about the war? Sometimes it's like a softer version, like, what's the view of Russia in your country? It's very often, what do people from where you're from think about people where we're from? And these questions are very rarely aggressive. It's more like Russians trying to understand how they're seen abroad. They want to know what part's just media nonsense, what part is reality, and you know, how much of it is an exaggeration. That's something we can all understand, I guess. As you become a foreigner, once you're especially in Russia, foreigners here are automatic spokespeople for millions of people back home. And that pressure's kind of strange. I know if someone asks me, what do I think of this or what do I think of that, they automatically think that's what British people think. So you learn to navigate it carefully, because people here are intelligent, they know things are complicated, and when they're asking you, they're asking for your genuine opinion. They're not looking for like a safe answer, or they're not looking for propaganda on the other side. They're looking for sort of honesty without any hostility. And of course, that's easier said than done. So those are the 5 questions that follow every foreigner in Russia. Number 1, why did you come here? Number 2, why here exactly? Why this city? Number 3, can you survive the winter? Number 4, are you rich? And 5, what does your country think about Russia? And after 8 years, I've come to sort of, I wouldn't say like these conversations, but of course they get repetitive, which is annoying, but you quickly learn that this is just small talk which leads into a real conversation. And they're not interrogations, they're sort of invitations. Come talk. People want to understand you, and they want you to understand them. And if you answer patiently, that chat becomes start of something real, and maybe you can start an actual friendship. And people in Russia love making foreign friends, so if anyone starts asking you these questions, then you might have a new friend on your hands.